मन्नाथ श्री जगन्नाथो मद्गुरुः श्री जगद्गुरुः मदात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। नमः कमलना भाय नमः कमलमालिने नमः कमलपादाय नमस्ते कमलेक्षण। यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वं ह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Divine souls, as we have done for the past few days, before starting the lecture, I would like us to chant Bhajo Giridhar Govind Gopala. So let's do Roop Dhyan and sing. Please sing after me and do clap your hands as you sing. Bhajo Giridhar Govind Gopala 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 गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला भजो 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 मोर मुकुट मुरली वाला भजो मोर मुकुट मुरली वाला भजो गिरिधर गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला भजो 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 गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला। बोलिए वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय। Devotional listeners, I now request your full attention for this final lecture of this series during the camp. So far we have learned from Tameva Viditvati Mrityumeti Nanyah Pantha Vidyate Yanaya, this one mantra from the Vedas. We have learned that every living being is an eternal part and parcel of God, who is another name for happiness. Because every part desires to be with its source, so it is that every individual soul desires happiness, which is another name for God. We have tried to look for happiness in this material world, and we have tried for countless lives, but we have not yet received it. Reason is that God is the one who can give us that happiness, not the world. So we thought we should get to know God. We tried, but we were told that God cannot be known, for He is divine and we are material beings. We were disappointed, but then we were told that God can be known. How? Through His grace. How do we attain His grace? By surrendering to Him. What does it mean to surrender to Him? It means to give Him our mind. It is the mind that needs to be given to Him. But then the problem was that our mind has been eternally surrendered to the material world, and we only have one mind. So how can we surrender our mind to God? We need to detach our mind from the world, then we can give it to God, we found out. How do we detach our mind from the world? By convincing our mind of the truth, and that is that true happiness cannot be found in any person or object of the world. Scriptures and saints told us if there were happiness in the world, then wouldn't everyone in the world be happy with every person, with every object, and in every place? We thought about it. The mind accepted this. But when the mind becomes detached from the world, it still needs to go to God. So we need a guru a strong teacher, a divine teacher, who teaches the ultimate truth and who teaches us the theory and then tells us how to practically follow it. We need a teacher, divine teacher, the Guru, to teach us how to surrender our mind to God. Our mind only knows how to surrender to the world. It doesn't know how to surrender to God. How do we surrender to God? Jagat Guru, Sri Kripaluji Maharaj says, do Roop Dhyan. Think about, lovingly meditate on the divine pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. Lovingly meditate on their name, on the form, the pastimes and the attributes. Don't just stare at God when you try to surrender your mind to God. Take the murti or a photo or an image of God as a basis for your Roop Dhyan. Then close your eyes and think about Sri Radha and Krishna performing various leelas and include yourself in those leelas, in those pastimes. Go into all relationships with Sri Krishna. Swami, Sakha, Sutapati. He is your Swami, your eternal master, loving master. He is your best friend. He is your child also. And most importantly, he is your beloved. These four relationships are taught to us, not by every saint, but by the Rasik saints, the greatest of all saints. Sri Maharaji has taught the world to meditate on Radha and Krishna, on Sri Krishna, Roop Dhyan on Sri Krishna, as the beloved. And then go into different relationships whenever we want. We must not ask God for any personal favors. We should not ask for health, wealth, name, and fame, or anything else. We must not even ask for liberation, what to speak of trinkets of this world. Our devotion to Him, when we do Roop Dhyan, our devotion must be completely selfless. So we've learned a lot about how to do Roop Dhyan, how to do devotion. But now in this final talk of the series, I would like to go over the precautions that each and every sadhak, each and every one of us needs to take on the path of devotion. And now I'll begin tonight's discourse. As we walk on the path of devotion, there are many obstacles, and we need to steer clear of them. Our mind is like a monkey. It's an intoxicated mind. It's a very mischievous mind. First of all, there are bads and scars from the past that we are dealing with in the present life. Secondly, the atmosphere we're living in Kali Yuga, it's not a pure one. It's an impure atmosphere. Thirdly, our own carelessness. We are careless. We people living in Kali Yuga, we tend to be careless in matters of spirituality and devotion. And then our intellect becomes intoxicated. It's intoxicated with Maya. And so we take wrong decisions. So there's many things going wrong within us, in the mind. There are many things that are going wrong. We need to stay away from the obstacles. We need to stay away from the danger zone. As we walk on the path of bhakti, as we walk on the path of God realization, Bhagavad Prapti, we need to be very careful about not listening to any criticism of God and godly saints. You may say, I'm going to think anything against God? No. But we routinely think against God. When we think, Sri Krishna should not have done that. Sri Krishna should not have performed the Maharas with the gopis who were married women. That was very immoral of him. Bhagwan Ram, well, he shouldn't have hidden behind a tree to kill Bali. That was very deceptive of him. You may say, well, I don't think like that. That's great. But there are many people who will talk to you about that. You know, I have this doubt about Krishna. I have this doubt about Bhagwan Ram. Don't listen. Tulsidas ji goes to the extent of saying, if someone comes to you and criticizes God, cut his tongue off. That's pretty drastic, says Jagadguru Sri Kripaluji Maharaj. Don't do that, but move away from him. Go away from him. If it's a family member and you cannot avoid him, just smile and that person will feel, okay, my words are not having any effect on this one, so I may as well stop talking. And if it is someone else, then go ahead and cut all ties with this person. Because anyone who speaks against God is going to damage our mind even further. So we need to learn how to stay away from kusang. Sangha means association, ku means bad association. We must try to remain always in susang or satsang. We must always give an atmosphere of satsang to our mind because our mind is polluted enough as it is. So anyone who speaks ill of God is to be avoided at any cost. And then when saints come to this world, it's very easy to misinterpret their actions. It's very easy to misjudge them. It has happened with every saint. Every single saint who has appeared in this world for our benefit, for the welfare of the world, has been maligned. One is being given poison, one is being nailed to the cross, one is being sent to jail, one is having the entire community is against him or her. Every single saint has been maligned and misunderstood. That does not mean that we should take part in that. Because when Gauranga Mahaprabhu went to a devotee of his, there was someone who misunderstood the devotee. Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He went to Nadia or Navadvip. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu said to his disciples, Pundarik is in Nadia, I must go and meet him. And his disciples thought this Pundarik must be someone very special because our Guru, who is God himself, he wants to meet Pundarik. How important, how great Pundarik must be. So they all accompanied Mahaprabhuji. And what they saw was this. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a very wealthy man. He was surrounded by luxury. There were so many servants and maidservants waiting on him. He was dressed in the finest clothes. He was dressed in silk and satin. He was looking no less than a king. He was surrounded by luxury. And Mahaprabhuji went to this man who was dressed so nicely, who had so much gold. He was wearing so many ornaments made of gold. Mahaprabhuji went to him and embraced him and cried. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi was also crying. There was one disciple who didn't understand this at all. And his mind started bothering him. Oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. Mahaprabhuji is wrong. Why is he embracing this worldly man? This is not right. I thought my Guru was God, but he's making a mistake. And this man, Pundarik, he is so materialistic. He's so attached to this world. What in the world is Mahaprabhuji thinking? Well, he didn't say anything, but he thought about all this. And naturally, Gauranga Mahaprabhu knew what this man was thinking. So when he went back to his ashram, accompanied by all the disciples, he singled out this one devotee, one disciple. He called him, summoned him, and the devotee said, "Yes, Maharajji." And Mahaprabhuji said, "I want you to leave the satsang and don't ever show me your face again." And he was, Gadadhar was his name, and he was shocked. And he said, "What is my mistake? Maharajji, what is my mistake?" Mahaprabhuji said, "What did you think about Pundarik when you went there? Did you criticize him in your mind? Did you think he was a worldly man?" Now Gadadhar's head is hanging down in shame. He said, "Yes." And Mahaprabhuji asked him, "What did you understand from all the lectures you heard from me? What have you understood from my philosophy? Where does detachment lie? Is it something physical or is it something in the mind? You thought that because Pundarik was surrounded by luxury and wealth, you thought him to be a worldly man. So the sense of renunciation, what has to renounce the world? The body or the mind? He said, the mind. Then why did you have wrong thoughts about Pundarik? Mahaprabhuji renounced this devotee. But when the devotee cried and pleaded for mercy, Mahaprabhuji said, you have offended my dear devotee. You must go to him, ask him for forgiveness, make him your guru, accept him as your guru. And if he forgives you, I shall forgive you. So this shows us that the Lord loves his devotees to such an extent. In the Ramayana, Tulsidas ji says, Sunu Suresh Raghunath Subhau Nij aparadh risahin kahu Jo aparadh bhagat kar karahi Ram rosh pavak so jarahi. God is so gentle, Bhagwan Sri Ram is so gentle that he doesn't mind if someone insults him. He just laughs it off. But if someone insults his dear devotee, then the gentle Ram becomes extremely angry. His anger, his wrath knows no limits. He does not spare the one who thinks against his pure devotees. So the main kusang is to think against God. The most offensive offense, aparadh, the worst nama aparadh is to have doubts about God and godly saints. And since we don't know who is a saint, who is not, that means we must respect everyone. Na jaane kis roop mein Narayan mil jaye. Or do we think that someone who is saintly, he has to be wearing a tilak on his forehead, he has to have matted hair, he has to wear saffron robes, or he has to wear yellow or white robes, and he has to live in the jungle somewhere? Are we naive? So naive that we think this? When we know that Prahlad was a saint, he was a king, Dhruv, Prahlad, Ambarish, Janak, Dasharath, these were all kings, but they were saints. They were God-realized. Arjun and his brothers, the Pandavas, were God-realized. And look at their conduct. Married to one woman, all 5 of them. Draupadi, and she's also a saint. How can we detect the divinity in someone by just looking at her or him? We cannot. This is why to stay away from kusang, to minimize the damage to our mind, we should, for our own benefit, we should think good of everyone. So kusang would be to think against others. And if it's God, that is the worst. And even worse is when we think against his saints and we don't know who is a true lover of God, who is not. True lovers of God hide themselves. Gopaniyam, gopaniyam, gopaniyam prayatnataha. It is their nature to hide their love. True love is hidden within them. They're humble. They don't go around saying, I am a great devotee of God, listen to me. If someone says, I am a great devotee of God, understand that he's a fake, he's an imposter. He's not a devotee. Dube so bole nahi, bolat so anjan. One who's drowned in love of God, he does not speak. One who speaks too much, that means he's very shallow. He has not dived deep in that ocean of love of God. So we must be very, very careful not to get into kusang. And kusang comes in so many different forms. In Narad Bhakti Darshan, Narad ji says, Duhsangah sarvathaiva tyajyah. This is Sutra number 43. He says, bad association, harmful association must be avoided. It must be avoided. Then in the 45th Sutra, he says, because even if it's a little bit of a kusang, little bit of bad association, it's not much. It's just a little bit. It's just a wave. But soon it will become an ocean. And it will overwhelm you. You cannot get out of it. You'll be gone for many, many years, or maybe many lives. So we must not underestimate the danger of kusang, bad association. In the Ramayana it is said, Baru bhalvas narak kartata, dusht sang jani devi vidhata. Bhagwan Ram is telling Vibhishan that it is better to reside in hell than to be in the company of someone who will give you wrong association, who will take you away from the thoughts of God. It's that important to avoid kusang. So to minimize the kusang, we need to feed our mind spirituality. We need to feed it devotional thoughts. So wherever we can get devotional thoughts from, that is where we should go. Satsang should be very dear to us. Satsang is not a chore. I need to go to satsang. Let me get it over and done with. Satsang, I'm greedy for satsang. We should become greedy for satsang because it feeds our mind. We are able to hear something about God. We are able to listen to kirtans. We are able to partake in kirtans. Satsang is something we should be greedy for, absolutely greedy for. And along with that, we need to be very careful in daily life. Everything we do affects our mind. Every thought that we think affects our mind. It's not as if we think a thought and it was a very good thought and it had no effect on the mind. It did. It had a positive effect on the mind. And it's not as if we had a negative thought and it didn't really affect our mind. It did have an effect. It had a negative effect. And as Naraji says, it seems like a little wave, it's a nothing, but tomorrow it'll become a samudra, it'll become an ocean. Caution has to be practiced. Who do we talk to? People we talk to in daily life. What are they saying to us? Are we discerning enough to talk only to those who will help us? Or will they distract us from our path? We need to think about this. Someone comes along and says, oh, you're too much about satsang. You're part of that Radhe Radhe group? Shri Maharaji used to laugh at that. He would say, Radhe Radhe group. Are you part of that Radhe Radhe group? In other words, the person is saying, are you one of those fanatics? Now, no one says, oh, are you one of those mall-going fanatics? Are you one of those restaurant-hopping fanatics? Are you one of those very worldly vacation-going fanatics? No, go on as many vacations as you possibly can. Go and eat in every possible restaurant of the city in Atlanta. Go and check out every restaurant. People will encourage us to do that, right? But you start going to satsang, if you start, and some of you have that, many of you, I think, have had that experience, then people will be after you. First of all, family, right? And then the so-called well-wishers. What's going on with you? You're going too much. You're overdoing it. What are you? Are you a saint or something? A devotee wore this. Shri Maharaji taught us to wear this. It protects, the neck from the cold. And she came to satsang wearing this. And someone said, are you taking sannyas? And she said, I didn't know that wearing just a little scarf of this color around the neck means I'm taking sannyas. Sannyas is not so easy. And it's not indicated by just wearing a particular color of cloth around the neck, not even on the whole body. So people will tell you this. What are you doing? You're too young to do all this. You talk like someone so old. No, leave all this for old age. Oh yes, that makes sense. When I can't walk, when I can't take the name of God, because there's too much mucus in the throat, when my mind is fully involved with the world, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and I know everybody's business. When I've become so worldly, then I should try to renounce the world mentally. Then I should think of God. Wonderful advice. That's the advice the world will give you. So be very picky. We need to be very discerning about who we talk to, whom we listen to, and by extension, what we read, what we browse on the internet. There's so much out there. And I often tell children and teenagers that they're growing up in this age, in these times. These are difficult times. It's very hard to focus on God and on anything good in this day and age because there's so much out there. It's so available. It's in the palm of your hands, literally, right? You have a phone and the whole world is here. And the world is good, bad, and ugly, right? It's all three. Everything is there. And the mind, naturally, because of previous bad sanskars and because of the present polluted atmosphere, the mind goes to the wrong places. Unless someone has tremendous willpower, the mind will take him to the wrong places. Now, in an earlier generation, no one knew what the internet was. It hadn't been invented. And there were no computers even. Children used to play outside. It was a different time. People used to be outside, more outside than, people used to talk to each other. Can you imagine there was a time when people used to talk to each other? And not just on the phone, but in person. I kid you not. There was a time when people used to talk to each other, and they used to make time for each other. It's not like they're sitting around the dining table and all of them have their phone with them. That was considered very rude. And plus, there was no phone that was untethered. It was always tethered to the wall. There was no cell phone, so you couldn't even bring a phone. Or even if you picked up a phone during dinner time, that was considered rude. But nowadays, you have maybe 6 people around the table. Everybody's got their phone. And the phone rings. It's like, it's a matter of life and death. I need to get that. What is that? The ping comes, and we're gone there. It doesn't matter who we're talking to. It doesn't matter what's going on. So it's very difficult, especially in this time, growing up in these times. It's very difficult. So we need to be even more, we need to take more precautions so that our mind is nurtured, so that our mind gets positive reinforcement. The words that we speak and the words that we hear, they're very important. We need to measure our words. Words are very powerful. By speaking sweet words, you can win someone's heart. By speaking encouraging words, you can talk someone out of committing suicide. And by speaking very words of anger, you can encourage someone to commit murder. Words are very, very important. Sri Maharaji used to tell us a story about 2 people, married couple. Sri Maharaji, they came into Maharaji's association when they were in their late 40s or early 50s. And Sri Maharaji, in fact, said at that time the wife was 52, so the husband must be 53, 54, in their 50s. Sri Maharaji went to their house and found out that they were not talking to each other, husband and wife. And they're both Maharaji's devotees. So Maharaji asked the devotees, someone else, why don't they talk? So that devotee said, I think that there's been a major rift between them. Maybe it's an issue of infidelity. Maybe one was not faithful to the other. Something very important, big. Sri Maharaji asked the couple, what happened? So now this is the guru asking them, so they had to tell the truth. And so they said, Maharaji, what happened was this. When she just got married at the age of 22, she had just gotten married, her husband came back from work, and she was reading a book. And he asked, what book is this? She said, it's a book called Nari Adarsh. Nari Adarsh, the ideal way for a woman to live. And what does this book say? She said, the book says that women have just the same rights as men. Then it's not that woman is a servant to the man. No, she has equal rights. And he said, put that book away. This is teaching you wrong things. Put that book away. She said, I will not, because it harms your self-interest. If I put this book away, I shall not. Well, he said, I will stop talking to you. She goes, that's fine. They stopped talking to each other, and now 30 years fast forward, and at 52, now she's 52, and Maharaji is discovering this, that for 30 years they have not talked to one another. Words can have such an impact. Now, he could have just said, okay, that's a book you're reading, that's fine, but no, you will not read this book. She said, I will read this book. And they both minded what each was saying. They didn't speak to one another for 30 years. That's not a small thing. Imagine being married to someone, not talking to them, not have anything to do with them, and you're a husband and wife. Words can have such an impact. Then another story Sri Maharaji tells is even more powerful. Sri Maharaji was told by a judge that he had just presided over a case which was very unique. And it was a murder case, but originally it was property case. It was a court case regarding property. 2 cousin brothers, they were fighting with one another, and their fight went to the court, each one saying, this piece of land is mine. So then, of course, the decision was taken in the favor of one of them. Both of them can't win the case. And so now the one who won the case, he was very happy, and the other one was naturally very sad. So the one who had lost the case, he was sitting outside his house in the village. He was sitting on a cot, and his elderly mother was there too. They were both sitting, looking very dejected. They were sitting like this because they had lost. They were unhappy. The cousin brother who had won the case, he happened to pass in front of their house. And when he saw them, he twirled his mustache like this. It's like an, haha, I won, you lost. He didn't say anything. He just twirled his mustache. And this angered the woman so much, she said, Beta, if you are indeed my son, then show this man what you're all about. Teach him a lesson he will never forget. So her words, his mother's words, had such an impact on this young man that he immediately ran inside, brought a big thick stick, and hit his own cousin on the head, instantly killing him. The murder case went to court, and the reason was asked, why did you kill this man? What did he do? What did he say? He didn't do anything. He didn't say anything, but he did something very, very bad. What did he do? He twirled his mustache. That's why you murdered him? So this young man, he has young blood in his veins, and then his mother told him, if you are indeed my son, show this man, teach him a lesson he'll never forget. And the young man didn't think anything, and killed this man. Devastation all around because of words. We should measure our words. How is the other person going to receive these words? What impact am I having on this other person's mind? Many a time it has been shown that a child was told very loving words and encouraging words by parents, by teachers, and he thrived. There's someone who has no arms, no legs, but his parents did not treat him as anyone special. They just encouraged, you can do anything anyone else can do. And indeed, he started doing anything that everyone else was doing. He didn't think he was disabled. But if you tell a child, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, or if we tell not even a child, a grown-up, we're all affected by the words we hear. And if we're told, oh, you can't do that, I guess I can't. Then we have to ask ourselves, who should I listen to? Who has a positive impact on my mind? And we should be very careful. We have a responsibility to speak words that will help another person. And we have a responsibility to ourselves to listen to the words that encourage us on the path of godliness, that will encourage our mind to become more and more pure. And we have the choice to listen or not to listen. We have a choice. No one can make us listen to anything. Someone says, so-and-so called me and she wasted 3 hours of my time and she had nothing good to say. She was criticizing this one and that one. Oh, she wasted my time. No, she didn't waste your time. You wasted your time. You had the opportunity, you had the ability to hang up after 3 seconds or 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes. You can say, I've got to go. Something urgent has come up. How could you listen to something for 3 hours? Then your mind became affected, and now you're talking about to other people. This has to be avoided. This has to be avoided. We should not be thinking against anyone. Padma Puran says, Parasya nindam paishunyam dhikkaram chakaroti yah tatkritam patakam prapya swapunyam pradadati saha. When you think against someone, then it is as if you are taking that person's virtuous quality, you're giving to that person all your virtuous qualities, and you're taking all his bad qualities. All the bad qualities that he has a lot of good qualities, but you're taking all his bad qualities and all the good qualities that you have, you're giving to him. These are the words of Bhagwan from Padma Puran, so they are to be taken seriously. So we should, as sadhaks, we should make an attempt. We will not succeed in one day, one night, but we should sincerely make an attempt to stop our mind from criticizing others. We should not let our mind, we should not just go with the flow of our mind. We know that the mind is corrupted. The mind has a mind of its own, and that mind is not very good. It's very corrupted. So we should not trust our mind. We should not trust it. Bhagwan Rishabh Mukti, liberation, came to him and said, Maharaj, I would like to serve you. He said, go away from here, because you might affect me. I might forget my devotion to God. I might get attached to you. So this is Bhagwan, Rishabha Bhagwan. He is saying, no, my mind might get corrupted with your association. And so who are we? You know the story of Saubhari Muni. I told it to you yesterday, I believe. There was Ajamil also, a famous and infamous Ajamil. His story is told in the Bhagavad Puran. He was a very virtuous man. He had a very good wife. He was serving his elderly parents. He had children, so his wife and children, his parents were living with them. And he was very good in every possible way. He was virtuous, he was devotional, he always did the right thing. One moment of Kusang drowned him badly. He just witnessed a scene which corrupted his mind. And when that corrupted his mind, the mind was corrupted for many, many years until he came back to his senses. So we should not think that Kusang, bad association, wrong association, cannot affect us. It will affect us. It will definitely affect us. Without our knowing it, it will affect us. There is a Kusang which doesn't sound like Kusang, but it is. Sri Maharaj Ji says in his Prem Ras Siddhant that if you have a guru and then yet you go to so many different places, let me check out this philosophy, that one, let me check out every possible philosophy. And you listen to so many speakers talk about so many different paths. There are 3 paths leading to God: path of karma dharma, path of gyan, path of bhakti. Let's say you're following the path of devotion, bhakti, and then you go to listen to path of gyan, path of knowledge, the path of impersonalism. And then you go to every speaker. Just listen, I want to listen. That is also Kusang. Because when you have discovered a path that satisfies you, it satisfies you completely, and you have selected a guru. This is my guru, and I will follow the path he has shown. Then to go to different places and just listen for entertainment, that is also Kusang, because it corrupts the mind, not in the worldly sense, it confuses the mind. In that sense, I say that it corrupts the mind. It confuses the mind. Because in one satsang you will hear, please pay attention, in one satsang you will hear that you are a servant of God. Jivera Shwarupahoy Krishnero Nityadas. And another satsang you go, and it's Gyan Marg satsang, and you hear you are God. Aham Brahmasmi. You think, am I God or am I a servant of God? I don't know. Maybe I am God. I think I am God. I don't know. Then you go to the satsang that says, no, you are a servant of God. I guess I am a servant of God. But then yesterday I heard I am God, so I'm confused. There's a lot of confusion that can take place. And already we are confused. When you find a path, when you find a guru, when you find the Ishtadev, remain ananya, remain exclusively devoted, while respecting every other path, every guru, while respecting everyone. And disrespecting someone is also kusang. This is, or rather I should say, it is wrong for any sadhak. For a sadhak, it's wrong to criticize others, but we must follow the path we have selected. Who goes here and there? One who has not accepted a particular path. One who's not sure yet. I don't know if this guru is for me. I don't know if this path is for me. Then by all means, one should search for a path that satisfies him. But if you have selected a path, then remain ananya, remain exclusive to that. Because it's not really kusang to listen to others, but it's very confusing. So this is also, Sri Maharaj Ji calls it kusang, because it confuses the mind. Our aim in this short life that we have, we don't know how long we're going to live. Our aim is clear. We have understood that. Our aim is to go to God. And if we don't succeed in going to God, attaining God in this life, our aim is to make as much effort as possible and to cover as much of the distance as possible. That should be our aim. So there is no use in digging for water in so many different places. Once you dig in one place and you have ample evidence that this is the place for you, then become exclusively devoted. But respect all others. And this is another thing. Respecting others is so important. If someone does it in a different way, they're not wrong. They're not necessarily wrong. They just do it in a different way. They're practicing devotion in a different way. They have a different way of adoring God. That's their path. Fine. My path is this. I'll follow it. So there are many kusangs that we need to become aware of. We need to be so cautious in daily life. The food we eat affects our mind. Ahara shuddhau, sattva shuddhi, sattva shuddhau, dhruva smritihi. Chandogya Upanishad says, if you eat sattvic food, if you eat pure food, it will make the mind pure. And the more pure the mind is, the easier it will be for you to meditate on God. It's much easier to do Rup Dhyan. So it's not good to say, I don't care what I eat, I just put anything in my mouth. No. What do we call that food that has no nutritional value? We lovingly call it junk food. It's garbage food. So it means we're putting garbage into our mouths. We say, well, I'm not picky. But no, we should be picky about what we eat, what we drink. It should not affect our mind negatively. We must take care of the mind. Our mind is not like the mind of a saint. Sant Rahim says, Chandana vish vyapeh nahi, lipate rahat bhujang. The sandal tree is so unique that many serpents, very poisonous snakes, make it their home. They wind their body around this tree, and the tree is not adversely affected by the poison. But every tree is not Chandan Vriksh. Every tree is not a sandal tree. Other trees are affected. So a saint can do anything. He can eat anything, drink anything. He can do anything, and he will not be affected. He has gone beyond Annamaya Kosh. There are 5 sheaths of Maya. Annamaya Kosh is the first one. We haven't even crossed that. If you cross that, it means then that you can eat and drink anything, you will not be affected physically or mentally. But we have not gone beyond that kosh, so we have to be very careful about what we eat and drink. Sattvic food is what should be eaten by us. That's the ideal. When we read something, that stays with us. When we watch a movie, when we watch a TV show, those images get imprinted on the brain, and they affect us mentally. When we sit down to do sadhana, that's when they all come up, all those scenes. That murder scene, that frightening scene, that horror movie, that terrible scene that I watched. It instills fear in the heart. It takes us away from thoughts of God. So we have to be cautious. We have to be very careful. Our mind is like a tender plant, which must be protected from the elements. When you have a tender plant, a gardener will take good care of it. The gardener will tie it with string, and the gardener will give it support. The gardener will water it and be very careful with it, take out the weeds around it, because it's a tender plant. Once the plant grows into a strong tree, a big tree, then the gardener can tie a cow to it, a goat to it, a horse to it, and the tree would be fine. The gardener does not need to take so many precautions with this tree. But when it was a plant, the gardener was very cautious. Our mind is like a tender plant. It needs protection. It needs protection from us. When we do Rup Dhyan, we are accumulating spiritual wealth. We are thinking about Sri Krishna. And we're thinking about God, so godly qualities are entering our mind. And then now we need to protect that wealth. That is true wealth. Kabir Das Ji says, Kabira sab jag nirdhana, dhanvanta nahi koi, dhanvanta soi janiye, jahi prem dhan hoy. Kabir Das Ji says, I see a lot of poverty in the world, and he's not talking about material wealth. he says the only affluent person, the only rich person is the one who has love for God. That is true wealth. So when we try to accumulate this true wealth, genuine wealth, in the form of divine love, love for the divine, I should say, then we need to protect it. Because you don't put your lifetime earnings on the roadside and say, well, I'll come back for it in a while. Somebody has made off with it, and then you're bankrupt. In the same way, when we accumulate spiritual merit, we have to be careful now to protect it. How do I protect it? We need to be very, very cautious. Jagadguru Sri Kripaluji Maharaj, in his Prem Ras Siddhant, Philosophy of Divine Love in English, has written that the last chapter is on this topic, Kusang. Because after all is said and done, you have to protect your mind. And Sri Maharaji has said, he was asked, how does one make sure that he gets a human birth again? And he said, if half of your time in your day, if half of your time is spent on thinking of God, you are sure to get a human birth. So that's a Jagadguru talking. If half the time we spend all day, half the time is spent on thinking about God, we are sure, absolutely sure to get a human birth again. That's what we should strive for. At least half the time needs to go towards thinking about God, towards Rup Dhyan. So accumulating wealth is important, but even more important is how to protect that wealth. And I'm talking about material wealth by extension now, more importantly for us, spiritual wealth. It's very important to listen to lectures. Not just listening to lectures though, and then that's the theory, and then putting that theory into practice by doing Rup Dhyan, by chanting the holy name, by chanting the glories and the pastimes. Very important. It's very important to do that. And then, after we do that, then we have to be very cautious in everyday life so that we don't lose that hard-earned wealth. When someone earns wealth, he's very careful with it. I don't want to waste this wealth. I don't want anyone to rob me of this. So we have to be careful about the spiritual wealth we are accumulating. We should not allow anyone to rob us of it. We should not allow anyone to steal it from us. We should not just squander it away. We have to be careful. We need to stay away from Kusang. And in doing this, we, with the grace of God and Guru, we will keep on walking on the path of God realization. We should not be discouraged thinking, oh, countless lives have passed, I have not reached Krishna, so why should this life be any different? In this life, we have received so much grace from God. We have received the teachings of Jagadguru Sri Kripaluji Maharaj. That is a big difference. That is not to be taken lightly. It is not to be taken lightly when a Jagadguru enters our life with his crystal clear teachings that leave no room for doubt, no room for confusion. Sri Maharaji hasn't left any room for confusion or doubt. He has answered every possible question. Then that means that God has smiled at us. When such a philosophy enters our life, then we need to follow it with exclusively. We need to follow it exclusively. We need to be humble about it. We need to value it. We need to cherish it. We should not squander it away, because that would be a great offense. When God has smiled upon us and He has given us everything we need to go towards Him, then we squander it. We don't value it. And how foolish it would be for us. So we need to keep on accumulating spiritual property, and we need to guard it. And with the grace of God, we shall surely reach our destination, and we should think, and we should plan on reaching there in this life. But we don't really have to look at the goal. The goal will be reached automatically if we just do the right thing. If we engage our mind in satsang, sadhana, and seva, just three things: satsang, sadhana, and seva, then we don't have to think about the goal, because the goal will be reached automatically. And this is, in brief, the explanation of Tameva Viditvati Mrityumeti Nanyaha Pantha Vidyate Yanaya, which is the 8th mantra of the 3rd chapter of Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Boliye Srimad Sadguru Sarkar ki, श्रीमद् युगल सरकार की जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे। We're going to offer bhog, and if you need this book, if you're not familiar with the bhog words, please raise your hand. And I will ask for a couple of volunteers to give the books out. ये हिंदी में, इसमें हिंदी के शब्द भी हैं, इंग्लिश के भी. So this has both languages, Hindi and English, and it's always good to know what we're singing. So I will tell you the words in Hindi are on page number 8. This is the Yugal Sarkar Bhog Geet, Yugal Var Jevan Ki Balihar. हिंदी में पृष्ठ संख्या है 8, and the English words are on page number 21. We will sing it as Jevan ki balihar Yugalavar. It's a very beautiful description that Sri Maharaj Ji has given. Can we have some books up here, please? Page number 8 in Hindi and 21 in English. Salish, can you play the dholak, please? Aryan, you can play for the aartis, okay? You can sit right there. There's a very beautiful description of Radha and Krishna eating a meal. So they're sitting on, I'll just go over the meaning with you, then you can visualize the scene. I offer myself, I sacrifice everything on the beautiful scene of Sri Radha and Krishna eating a meal. The divine couple is seated on gem-studded thrones made of sandalwood. The gopis have arranged golden bowls in a golden platter, and they have served in these bowls various delicacies of all 6 flavors. Having done so, the gopis stand with folded hands and request Sri Radha and Krishna to start eating. Lord Krishna lovingly feeds Radharani, and Radharani's joy knows no bounds as she feeds her beloved with her own hands. Gopis are singing the Bhog song in their melodious voices, accompanied by various musical instruments. Says Jagatguru Sri Kripaluji Maharaj, this scene is so beautiful that one would gladly give life itself for the privilege of watching it, witnessing it. जीवन की बलिहार युगलवर, जीवन की बलिहार युगलवर, 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 मणिन जटित चंदन पीठासन, मणिन जटित सखीन संवार युगल वर साजी सखन सवार युगल वर युगल वर युगल वर पुनीतेन महान परसी बहु व्यंजन पुनीतेन महान परसी बहु व्यंजन षटरस सरस अपार युगल वर षटरस सरस अपार युगल वर युगल वर युगल वर पुनि कर जोरी कहेऊ आरोगहु पुनि कर जोरी कहेऊ आरोगहु सखीन प्राण साकार युगल वर सखीन प्राण साकार युगल वर युगल वर युगल वर पिय प्यारी मुख प्यारी पिय मुख पिय प्यारी मुख प्यारी पिय मुख हसी हसी ग्रास ही डार युगल वर हसी हसी ग्रास ही डार युगल वर युगल वर युगल वर युगल वर युगल वर सखीन समाज साज संग गावती सखीन समाज साज संग गावती मधुर सुरन मधुर सुरन जेवनार युगल युगल सरकार की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की, श्रीमद सद्गुरु सरकार की जय। There are some announcements, after which we will do the 3 artis.
Radhe Radhe, as you know, today is the last day of our retreat. We had wonderful time here. It's time to go and welcome the new year. So would like to get your attention to get some items from the gift shop. These are the items that I have not shown so far, so all the new ones.